Oh, New Second Thought? All right, let's watch New Second Thought. There's some other stuff that I want to watch as well.
This episode and others like it are made possible by the generous support of my patrons on Patreon. We just did a major overhaul of our patrons-only Discord server, so if you'd like to join our growing community and get early access to every video, consider becoming a patron at patreon.com/secondthought. Remember when these videos started with rhetorical if statements? Me neither. Anyway, if you ever looked at a screen during 2020, you probably saw this image. It's the Black Lives Matter mural in DC. And like many other things I start my videos with, I'll probably be talking about something else in like 30 seconds. For now, though, I want to talk about this mural, because it's one of the most obvious political stunts in recent years. Commissioned in June of 2020 by Washington, D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser, the Black Lives Matter mural accomplished two things. It made Apple Maps briefly relevant again, and it set me on the path of writing a 20-ish minute video about political recuperation and Gramscian hegemony 2 years later. Other than that, not so much. Well, sorry, it did do one more thing. For Mayor Bowser, the mural was a very effective way to co-opt and neutralize Black Lives Matter without hearing any of the movement's demands, and actually giving herself the freedom to move in the complete opposite direction. I can't believe I almost forgot to mention that. Because at around the same time the mural went up, Bowser's proposals for 2021 included increasing police budgets and doubling the size of the cadet program. That is, when she wasn't busy spending time on TV proposing her, let's say, creative interpretation of what defund the police really means. You're gonna laugh, but I clearly misunderstood what defund the police meant the first time around. Oh man, I am embarrassed. Of course, the DC wing of BLM was quick to point out Bowser's hypocrisy and call the mural out for what it is, a pointless stunt. And they're right, but it's also a lot more than that. This mural fits into the more general topic of political recuperation and the idea of governing through consent. Let's do a video about that. Because the truth is that symbols like the mural, and more generally quote-unquote culture, matter a lot in politics. Even though I had a lot of fun being a cheeky little guy and saying the mural didn't achieve anything, I only said that because, well, I wanted you to like me. And because I meant that it didn't help achieve the goals of the BLM movement in any way. In fact, it actively hid the betrayal of the movement's demands entirely. But it still mattered a lot as a cultural symbol, because ultimately, it was an integral part of the liberal co-optation of the Black Lives Matter movement and its watering down to a vague demand for recognition. It allowed Democrats like Bowser to remain as legitimate political figures in the public eye without actually representing the more radical wing of their electorate or carrying out its demands. In that sense, the mural did actually achieve quite a lot. In politics, this kind of co-opting and watering down of radical ideas is sometimes called recuperation. Okay, really it's only called that by this guy, Guy Debord, badass smoker and French philosopher of the mid-20th century. Who is this nerd? Well, he wrote a book, so now here we are. In his book, The Society of the Spectacle, and in the Manifesto for the Situationist International, which he also wrote, Guy launches what academics call an attack, and what everybody else calls a couple paragraphs of words, on what he considers the new era of capitalism. Capitalism 2, Consumerist Boogaloo. Following World War II, Guy became concerned with how his native France adopted consumerist culture, a society in which the solution to all the ills of modern life are channeled through the acquiring of mass-produced commodities. Guy described how, in the search for ever-growing markets, a society in which basic needs were generally met for most people turned to the consumption of not really necessary stuff. Buying not really necessary stuff became a new fundamental economic need, but also a basic human need. In a consumerist world, market actors and advertisers.
And the reason why you, unlike many other people, have this immediate negative predisposition towards NFTs is because NFTs are the final function of what we are talking about. NFTs are literally, quite literally, the last evolution of purchasing something that has no meaning other than what it signifies as you, about you, the consumer. And in most circumstances, it doesn't even have any sort of like tangible product associated with it. There's no physical property associated with it. It's just simply numbers that say you own something that is easily replicable and that is created with the express purpose of being a speculative asset and nothing more. So that is not last, probably latest. I'm just saying that, like, where can you go after NFTs? I don't even want to think about that, because like what's beyond a a product that's not consumable?
What's your problem with
You know what I
losing
mean?
time?
Where there's nothing. Like, there's nothing. What could it be? I guess virtual land, digital enclosures. But that's, you know, and that's gonna happen. But I don't know. I don't know what else you could do that is like, that is less valuable, that you associate value to, with no fucking immediate tangible product other than the cultural signifier that you are wealthy and potentially you are going to make more money off of the thing that says you are wealthy.
Advertisements are no longer trying to convince you to want the hip new FM radio. They are telling you that you need it, in the same way that you need food on the table. In short, ads create new needs. Beyond this incredibly simplistic description of what advertising tries to do, however, Guy explains that it's not an actual belief in the need to own the latest piece of tech that motivates us to buy it. It's a need for the way these commodities make us look. In other words, appearances become essential to consumption, and by extension, to all of social life. It's all about appearances. Everything becomes about the spectacle. You need stuff not because you actually need it to live, nor do you need it because you're tricked into thinking you need it to live, but because you need to keep up appearances. It looks good to have stuff, and the specific stuff you have says something about you that you want others to know. Alright, big deal. So far we haven't really gone any further than your boomer dad talking about how dumb ripped jeans are. But for Guy, those jeans really do matter, because not only are they, like other consumer products, capable of making us feel really bad, reduced to our appearances, and alienated from ourselves, but the philosophy of appearances that this image-based consumption cultivates ends up becoming a huge part of our society, and therefore of our politics. For Guy, then, politics become dominated by how appearances are manipulated without substance ever really needing to support them. Today, the classic example of this is Donald Trump and how he convinced some 60 million people that a billionaire real estate mogul was somehow not part of the elite. He played on his appearance as an outsider to hide the reality of another political elite who would spend his time in office growing the power of his wealthy buddies with things like tax cuts for the rich. But even if he's the most egregious example of what Guy calls the spectacle in politics, the same framework of analysis applies to Hillary Clinton and Joe Biden, who both challenged Trump mainly by cultivating their own image, that of responsible, level-headed politicians, instead of any meaningful contradiction to his policies, many of which still haven't been reversed since Biden took office. The same goes for every other politician, even the ones you like, and the same goes for every late-night show host who spent every minute of a 4-year term on how dumb Trump's hair looked, or his daily outrageous tweet, far more often than on the policies he carried through Congress. This is what Guy calls the society of the spectacle, in which appearances take on this disproportionate influence and can come to replace the substance of material reality in many cases. But believe it or not, we haven't even gotten to the good part yet. We haven't talked about revolution. Because there's more to politics than politicians trying to get you to vote for them. There's also a bunch of people in power who benefit from the society of the spectacle and use it to make sure their power doesn't get wrestled away.
Stephen Colbert did a lot of good critique of Trump's politics. Stop this meme. How do you find yourself in my community of all fucking places as a Stephen Colbert defender? Like, how? How the fuck does that happen? I'm actually shocked. Like, I need to understand the journey that this motherfucker took to arrive here to be like, no, actually, Stephen Colbert did really good critiques of Trump's policies. Like, no, he didn't. Like, he did not.
Away from them. When
Yeah, I'm not talking about old Colbert. I'm talking about new Colbert, like late night Colbert, who sucks. You know? The carrot went up too far, it hit the fucking brainstem, you know? Look, copious consumption is incredibly important for Americans, okay? Or incredibly important for most people existing under a capitalist society. That's like our primary fucking function as a labor force. We're not even a fucking labor force, but we're more so a consumer force, right? That's why when COVID first struck, originally they had to fucking, make sure that every worker who stayed at home would be able to go purchase stuff. You know what I mean? Because like that's really important, so that the economy doesn't blow up. And most of that is just a cultural signifier that is really important for people's lives. And then you have the $5 a month subscription to the Hasanabi broadcast. Now you might be thinking like, wow, I mean, who cares? Why would I do that? Well, you got emotes, which are kind of like NFTs. Okay, if you want to get a feeling of like having an NFT. But the main thing, other than being like, hey, I like the show, I want to support it, I get a nice little badge. The main thing is that at the top of the hour, there's a 6-second ad break, a contractual obligation. And if you're a $5 a month subscriber, you get to avoid that ad break. You know what I mean? Also, not only that, but you get to also avoid that if you don't have $5, but instead have a Twitch Prime. That is, of course, if you have an Amazon Prime account that you connected to your Twitch account. That way you can avoid those ads as well. And lastly, you can be lucky and get gifted a sub. That is one other way to avoid the top of the hour subscription. And here is the 1 minute ad break now. Think about him. Yeah, we did talk about Jimmy Fallon and Paris Hilton talk about NFTs. It was so fucking annoying that I blew a gasket. Is this you? No, don't fucking ever send me links. OpenSea Hasanabi. No, it's definitely not me, dumbass. Anyway.
The dominant class is confronted with radical, subversive, or revolutionary opposition, movements like Black Lives Matter, for example. Using the power of appearances comes in really, really handy. That is recuperation. The ability for members of the dominant class to twist and appropriate revolutionary appearances for their own benefit, absorbing revolutionary sentiments into their fold, and ensuring their survival as the dominant class doesn't get challenged because they've neutered the radical content that those images used to communicate. In Guy's own words, the ruling ideology sees to it that subversive discoveries are trivialized and sterilized, after which they can be safely spectacularized. In the case of DC Mayor Muriel Bowser, her appropriation of the Black Lives Matter or Defund the Police slogans does exactly this and helps her achieve two things. One, it sterilizes the message. Defund the police is no longer about actually defunding the police, silly. It's about reform, more training, and more money. Black Lives Matter is no longer about actually ensuring the value of Black lives is respected by distributing wealth more equally, abolishing the violent carceral state and the militarized police, or ensuring that the institutions that guarantee a decent life are properly funded everywhere. Black Lives Matter is just about saying that Black lives.
The anti-Colbert take feels like anti-work mod obliviousness of what works for the normies. Don't turn nihilist on us. I just despise you liberals, bro. I'm sorry. Like, I don't like you. Like, if you've been in here long enough and you're still like fucking taking like a stance like this, I'm gonna let you know you're not we're not ideologically aligned. Okay? I'm not a nihilist. That's fucking stupid. I mean, nihilism is almost inevitable for many people in this day and age, but I'm not. I'm just not a fucking liberal. Like, even Colbert is boring as fuck. He used to be really funny. He used to actually rip into he used to actually rip into conservatives pretty funny in a really clever way. Stop turning away chatter, scream at them or something, Ree. What? His comedy suffered as a consequence of being like a fucking late night talk show. He wanted to get the bag. It's fine. Like, he wanted to get the fucking bag. And that's fine. But don't come in here and fucking try to tell me, like, don't piss on my face and tell me it's raining. Because that's what you're doing right now. You're like, you're literally like, no, it's just like, it's not enough that you don't care about Stephen Colbert, like, or you have to like Stephen Colbert. Like, you have to like him. What do you consider yourself? A socialist that lives in a $3 million mansion? The fuck? Yeah, I do actually. I don't have to consider myself anything. I just consider myself to be considerate to your mom when I fuck her every night. And that's pretty much it. I consider myself not the stepfather, to not be the stepfather, but the father that stepped up.
Hassle.
So.
Matter, and that's it. It's literally just about the spectacle. But that's not all. The second thing this appropriation does is it provides a safeguard to her power and the power she defends. That of a white supremacist nation that can only function with a heavily racialized distribution of property. Now that the radicality of the words Black Lives Matter and defund the police have been completely neutralized, Bowser can use them all she wants. And because she said the words, painted them on the street, and paid lip service to the movement, she can somewhat credibly position herself on the side of the revolutionaries while firmly maintaining the oppressive status quo they are revolting against, effectively killing the subversive movement. It's nothing more than a rhetorical trick. Guy Debord would say, Black Lives Matter.
Not that I'm a like revolutionary figure or even a thinker. One of many of these people from, you know, many of these historical figures, but I did see Karl Marx's house in London. It's pretty fucking tight. Pretty nice. Also had a big house. Not that I'm similar in any meaningful capacity. I'm not a theorist. I'm not a thinker. I'm not a revolutionary. I'm not a fucking leader. I'm just a Twitch streamer. But, you know, I did see his house and it was pretty good. You are definitely not a thinker? Yeah, no, I'm not. I'm not a thinker.
Has been recuperated. This whole approach to government isn't entirely new. Decades before Guy was born, another political theorist had figured out that culture was a major part of the ways governments and dominant classes self-preserve and govern. That guy is Antonio Gramsci, and he had an idea he called hegemony. For Gramsci, a leftist Italian revolutionary imprisoned under Mussolini, governments and dominant groups maintain their status in two big ways. There's the obvious one, the way governments have always run the show, violent coercion. Your armed forces, your police officers, your prisons, and all the laws and regulations that establish and enforce the rules of government above you. That's the obvious way that those in power stay in power. Nothing very surprising there. Gramsci's innovation, which has honestly lost a lot of flair after like 90 years, is that violent kind of coercion is only being used to discipline people who don't consent to the way society is organized and to the rule of the powerful. The problem, for those in power, is that if too many people don't consent, and your only solution is beating up those people, you run the risk of starting a revolution. And then there are gonna be way too many people to beat up, and you might lose your beaten stick. So dominant classes don't just repress those who don't consent. They also use the domain of culture, what Gramsci calls civil society, to manufacture consent in the general population and suppress more subtly the kinds of thinking that may upset their interests. Media and political institutions, the vast majority of which are less accountable to the general population than to the financial interests that fund them, can serve as the means by which this consent is manufactured. It's not usually going to be done with outright lies, but with more subtle biases that frame stories a certain, at times dishonest way, or focus on one issue while ignoring another, or transform the debate.
Nothing will change with people, Hasan, not taking part in electoral politics, etc. Starbucks protest? What? Me as a poor man, I just you all the same, including Hasan, but I enjoy watching you.
Debate or change the language with which
What they did with Martin Luther King now is just whitewashing and historical revisionism, which is basically the historical version of what he's talking about, which is just straight up co-opting. It's a little bit different because this is contemporary and happening right now. Okay, what's happening right now is a little different. What did they do? 8 Can't Wait was the immediate counter to the more revolutionary takes coming from the streets. Okay, my brother told me Joe Rogan will go down in history with thinkers like Marx and Plato. Says he's a modern philosopher. Dude, that's so sad, bro.
Pogo.
That's, to be honest, maybe it's true because we are collectively getting dumber and dumber and dumber, you know? I mean, just look at the logo. Which part of this primes you in an expectation of reliable medical advice? Nobody has stronger opinions on Joe Rogan than people who've never listened to Rogan. The idea that people are like emerging from their deep caves and eyes blinking against the harshness of the sun, whose touch they have never known, on a quest to seek specific medical advice when the glory of a white robe Rogan is perhaps just the slightest bit forced.
Consider myself both 8 months subscribed, 8 inches deep inside.
That's not appropriate, I think. I mean, I look, I love Edward Snowden. I'm a fan, okay? And I used to be a gigantic fan of Joe Rogan. It's like this. Here's how it works, okay? What's the fucking movie that like reignited or really kickstarted the Klan? I always forget. Someone says Shrek 2, Birth of a Nation. Thank you, chatters. You guys are brilliant and really quick. So, Birth of a Nation is not the reason why the Klan fucking developed as quickly as it did. Birth of a Nation took advantage of basically kicking into high gear pre-existing white supremacist values and attitudes that people have in the United States of America. That's why you can't really go against the pre-existing material conditions and what they reflect about society by way of culture. You can only light the fire. You can't exactly put out a fire and stop people from... You can't exactly put out a fire and stop people from having bad takes or good takes or whatever the fuck. But you can always... but your take on media never influencing society is silly, especially considering your gig. No, I mean, you can have a limited amount of influence as a speaker, which Joe Rogan is, okay? And I am as well. Like, that's a little bit different than, you know... Just wait, I'm gonna fucking give you the take. You're gonna hear what I mean, okay? Movies inherently cannot fucking, you know, suppress certain political opinions by just being, like, really cool, okay? Like, there's a limitation to that. There's a giant limitation to that. We're not gonna fucking movie our way into a communist utopia. Okay, that's just not gonna happen. Without organizing, without actual like people power, without labor power, there is no such thing that you can do. So my influence, the most staying power that I have with what I do, is by getting you guys to organize and helping you recognize the way that society is developed through agitated propaganda. Okay? There is no like singular leader that is going to make movies, or there is no like collection of people that are going to be able to make movies. Like, manufacturing consent only works because it is working alongside State Department propaganda. And the moment that manufacturing consent does not work, they'll just fucking jail you. And they'll go into a more authoritarian style of information control, like you see in China, right? That's it. That's always my take. The reason why Joe Rogan, however, has a lot of staying power is because he's not going against the grain. He's not going against mainstream media. He's actually very much a part of the societal attitudes that people have. He is going towards and basically mirroring the reactionary societal attitudes that we have. That's the real damaging part about this. To simply state that
One more till 12 has.
To simply state that, Joe Rogan, people aren't just going to him for medical advice, what the fuck, is really silly. And also not true. Because people are going to Joe Rogan for medical advice. They quite literally are. Like, famous people go to Joe Rogan for medical advice. Millions of people go to Joe Rogan for medical advice. They see him as a medical hero, dude. They see him as like an actual brilliant person. But he's not a singular individual, and there wouldn't be this many anti-vaxxers if it wasn't for the fact that there is so much misinformation that also makes its way through modes of communication like Facebook. And there's so much misinformation popping off on mainstream media outlets. You know? But ultimately, Joe Rogan does have a lot of fucking influence. Like, it's crazy to say he doesn't have enough influence to like influence people to not get the vaccine. Like, I personally think he definitely has. I mean, he straight up, I think Joe Rogan has blood on his hands. Like, he's probably stopped a bunch of people from getting the vaccine, and then, they fucking went and then they died. Or they were listening to the podcast, they stopped their fucking parents from getting the vaccine, and their parents died. Like, there's no shot. If you are advocating against vaccines on a platform that has like millions and millions and millions of views and stands, okay, adult stands, then yeah, you probably have fucking killed. What if that's a fucking crazy leftist thing to say? What the fuck? No, I genuinely believe it. I do. Wasn't there like a radio host lady that almost single-handedly the reason Christians became so xenophobic? Famous people literally cited Rogan's regime when they got COVID. I think some of them even said they reached out to him personally, didn't they? Yeah. On a macro scale, we should probably deplatform people like Rogan. I think like I don't understand how Spotify doesn't say something to him and go, dude, what are you doing? Please, like, you're making a lot of money for us. We love you. Like, can you please just stop talking about fucking COVID? Like, please. You're putting us at risk. You're putting everyone else at risk. Like, fuck, please stop. Yeah, I mean, you got Aaron Rodgers who like literally does not listen to his own team's doctors and listens to Joe Rogan. Like, well, and then you're out here being like, nah, dude, like you're wrong. Actually, Joe Rogan is not responsible. No, that's bullshit. He's not a baby, dude. That's crazy. That's actually crazy. But sure, blame the magic third eye radio man for the decline of basic trust in institutions. Throw him in the volcano and we'll have the world peace by Monday. So like Edward Snowden is right? I mean, he is right. Like, obviously, this agrees with exactly what I'm saying. Okay, this agrees with exactly what I'm saying. Which is that obviously if Joe Rogan was, if Joe Rogan was an advocate for communism, like he wouldn't have this level of influence. Okay? Like people aren't going to magically turn communist overnight. The things that he's advocating for have to also correspond to individual values that people have, okay? People that hold on to these values and see it very personally. That's the only reason why. Yes, there is a decline in institutions. This is real. Yes, especially as a consequence of like not having not-for-profit healthcare, not having socialized medicine. People just simply think like every pharmaceutical company is led by demons, and they're right. They are led by fucking demons. But if and that is that plays a larger role. What do I always say? Alex Jones would be one of the greatest entertainers of all fucking time if everybody could treat Alex Jones in the same way that I do. A guy who is doing a fucking bit, like he's doing performance art, and you shouldn't take him seriously. But people, unfortunately, take him seriously. They take him seriously to the point, especially in America, they take him seriously to the point where they buy all the fucking substances that he's shilling, and they take him seriously to the point where like they go and they harass victims of fucking Sandy Hook. Elon Musk is similar too at this point. Like they just have like these cult tweets are fine, Elon Musk, but you can dramatically change the political and cultural landscape this way. 1, buy and take over a major social media platform. 2, acquire or create a TV network like ABC, NBC, CBS. 3, create a world-class online university and offer degrees for interesting ideas. Elon Musk responding to Dinesh D'Souza with the interesting ideas. Oh, God. Elon is part of the problem, not a solution. But it's pretty funny. This combo is pretty funny. The idea is people are like emerging from their deep caves, eyes blinking against the harness of a sun whose touch they have never known, on a quest to seek specific medical advice from the glory of a white-robed Rogan is perhaps just the slightest bit forced. That's not what this is. Like, I don't think people are saying like Joe Rogan is exclusively the reason for COVID misinformation spreading. You want to talk about Shapiro? Then that's a different story. He's telling people to believe these things, that he's saying Joe's just smoking a blunt, having a convo. That's not true. And if you're a Joe Rogan fan like I am, you know that there are certain things that Joe Rogan has always been like a fucking ride or die Andy on, okay? Smoking weed, DMT. Well, not for everyone, but like, you know, the medical uses potentially of like DMT and other psychedelics, okay? Eating elk meat and hunting. These are like things that he always was an advocate for and will never change his mind on. And by the way, I don't have a problem with those things. Those things are great for him to be an advocate on. Who cares? Joe Rogan, on the other hand, has now adopted this new position, being a fucking medicine skeptic, a COVID skeptic. And it's one thing that he will never go back on. He just like fucking does not care. He will not back down. No matter how much people tell him he's misinforming people, he just does not stop. So it's not just him like smoking a blunt and pontificating. He's smoking a blunt and deliberately misinforming people, regardless of however many people correct him. What? What? He has changed his idea on marijuana. Wrong again. Damazon striking out today. Wait, what? 2 horrible takes back to back today. Are you okay? Wait, what has he changed his mind on weed? Let's go to your bad take on comedy news. As long as like a Republican that hates liberals, same side, homie. Comedy news is comedy and news. You don't have to be a liberal to laugh. Wait, you're a fucking Stephen Colbert defender? What the fuck? Bro, this is like, dude, please seek help, okay? Hasan, I fucked your grandmom, and nobody will remember except your mom because I broke her back so many times. Aw, Joe Simp. Hasan sounds like a boomer. Hasan is just moving the goalpost now. Again. Hasan, 2 horrible back-to-back takes. Are you okay? Dude, please seek help, okay? Up the dose of lithium that you're taking. Clearly it's not working. You literally think we're having a conversation and communicating to one another. This is the first and last time I will ever fucking communicate with you. You are never, I don't know who you are. I will never know who you are. I will forget about you immediately after this. You need to get medical help, okay? Please. Um, You meant that Joe was very anti-weed up until after that docu about BC Bud? What? Anyway, okay. I don't care about the fucking governor making someone kiss their dog's butthole, okay? It's weird as fuck. Oh yeah, his trans takes are terrible too, exactly. That's another one. He just like will never give up on that. Trans athletes in sports. Like that's another one that he just like will never shut the fuck up about.
It is understood, or make it about something else, or platform some people and not others. Ultimately, however that consent is manufactured, the main goal will be to present one narrative as dominant and most easily agreed with, and its contradiction, which could threaten established power, as disagreeable. The upshot, if you're one of these people in power, is that the more people speak in your terms and agree with the basic premises that keep you in power, the less you'll have to repress them with guns and barred windows. To be clear, all forms of media will have bias. There is no such thing as absolute neutrality in media, as I constantly tell people in the comments. The difference with manufacturing consent is that the assumptions that communicate bias aren't framed explicitly as such. They're presented as if they were common sense, or at least they're never explicitly challenged. The result is that that kind of bias can become almost imperceptible to a general audience when these unchallenged, mostly hidden biases are repeated across the entire landscape of the media we consume and in civil society more generally. This is cultural hegemony, the absolute and incredibly subtle domination of culture by one group. Guy called this the rigged arena of official culture, and Gramsci's analysis uncovered its relevance and maintenance by the upper class, the state, and their institutions. Nowadays, it's not hard to see the constant debate of the phrase defund the police, 3 words which could not be easier to understand, participating in this muddying of the water and pacification of a more radical idea. This form of government, that operates through cultural institutions, sanctioned political debates, and the recuperation of subversive politics, can have incredibly powerful consequences. Not only does it maintain the kinds of oppressive power structures that we all know and love from your classic capitalist society in the short term, it can create what another nerd calls capitalist realism. This is the last nerd, I promise. According to Mark Fisher, yet another political theorist, capitalist realism is the widespread sense that not only is capitalism the only viable political and economic system, but also that it is now impossible even to imagine a coherent alternative to it. Capitalism becomes common sense. Here again, according to Fisher, the interests of businesses, which are usually framed as the interest of the economy, are so dominant in our culture that we come to accept true.
Hence why one can, in Hollywood, very easily imagine the end of mankind
10 months
and all we know,
Hasanabi, I have an addiction and
rather than imagine the end of capitalism.
Truly horrible
Another Mark Fisher, I mean, I'm paraphrasing Mark Fisher, but that's the Mark Fisher quote. Easier to imagine the end of mankind than the end of capitalism.
realities as inevitable and uniquely real. While the neoliberal era has produced endless suffering around the world, the possibility of global human annihilation by climate change, and countless wars and conflicts for profit, billions of people still justify the integrity of the global capitalist economy because it has become incredibly difficult to imagine an alternative. Hey, it might be horrible, but it's the best we've got. At least that's how we've come to rationalize it. And for that, we have to thank, at least in part, the persistent efforts of recuperation that have hollowed out even the most revolutionary of movements and made them agreeable to the persistence of a capitalist economy. In the neoliberal present, the only solutions that are considered valid and enter the public debate are those which merely mitigate what capitalist societies portray as externalities of economic production. The problems of a capitalist society aren't really problems with capitalism itself, of course, just its execution. They're externalities, unintended consequences, nothing more. We're led to believe we can really fix these issues without challenging the overall economic order. But many of these issues are so intimately tied to the pillars that uphold capitalism that they won't go away without those pillars crumbling too. Under the logic of capitalist realism, There is no abolishing capitalism, or even considering that as an option when trying to solve its problems. The only legitimate way to quote-unquote solve climate change, for example, is staying squarely within market logic, buying eco-friendly things, or watching your individual carbon footprint, or creating new carbon markets to try to gamify pollution. It's not that an economy that needs to grow endlessly forever and constantly deliver at least 3% gains to shareholders will inevitably extract more from the earth to produce more to sell more. It's just that you're not buying enough paper straws. Save the turtles, you selfish jerk. Under the logic of capitalist realism, entire alternative economic models are cast aside as utopian, as jokes, as impossible. You'll hear things like, how can you really defend communism? Don't you know every time someone tried it, it failed? But don't pay attention to all of its successes or the ways capitalist societies are failing you right now. Those we can actually fix. This economic model is different. It can actually achieve all that utopian stuff. The fact that it's dominated the global economy for centuries and these issues have only gotten worse doesn't mean anything. Trust me. Part of the tremendous power of capitalist realism is that it can exist side by side with the empty symbols that promote its abolition. And
Looking a lot like socialism to me, brother. I don't know what the fuck you're talking about, okay? Like this. New. A top suicide hotline is collecting data from people's darkest moments and sharing it with a for-profit company that is using the data to build and sell customer service software. Fuck yeah, baby. That's right. That's what I'm talking about, dude. That's what I'm fucking talking about, dude. This sounds a lot like socialism. This is something that would happen under socialism. Oh, wait, it's happening under capitalism. But, you know, it could be happening under socialism as well. And when it happens under socialism, it's the fault of the socialism, the system. When it's happening under capitalism, it's an individual actor that's individually being bad. And actually, you're individually at fault for, you know, wanting to die and then allowing a corporation to fucking give, you know, to corporation to just take your fucking information and sell it to someone else. That's just the reality. That's why when 14 million people die of famine-related diseases in our capitalist, global capitalist organization of the economy, okay, because we do live under capitalism. There is no socialism anywhere, okay? Truth hurts, cope. Imagine the revolution if Rogan gets whacked like McAfee or something. You think what happens if Rogan is found dead? What do you think happens if... What? Truth hurts, cope. Dude, 90% of what you motherfuckers do in here is literally cope. Like, you haters come in here and you're like, I literally live in the shittiest existence. Scum of the swamp, thank you for the 100 gifted subs. Like, homies will literally come in here and go, I live the shittiest existence, dude. And the one fucking dude who's like, hey, maybe it's not my fault. Maybe it's the system that is designed this way that's telling me that the system is designed against me. No, fuck that guy. That guy's at fault because he's living good. He's living cushy, bro. I don't want to fucking hear what he's saying. That makes me even more mad. It's like, dude, you literally, okay? You quite literally fucking uplift people like Elon Musk and then turn around and fucking yell at me, dude. Yeah, it's my fault, dude. I know. Anyway, what I was trying to say is under a capitalist organization of the economy, famine and famine-related diseases kill 14 million people, okay? 14 million people a year. And that is even weirder when you consider the reality that, like, the only solution is logistical, okay? Like, we already have a surplus of food. We create a surplus of food right now. And 14 million people die of famine-related diseases under capitalism. Who's at fault there? Motherfuckers who didn't bootstrap hard enough. Sorry, you fucking grew up in Ethiopia. Sorry, you were born in Yemen. Sorry, you were born in an African nation. Like, it does not matter. It's just you didn't bootstrap hard enough, okay? That's why you died of famine-related diseases. Or even if you're living in America and you died of fucking famine or you're food deprived, that's still, you didn't bootstrap hard enough. And that's the attitude that we take. Stop being lazy, because everyone that died, all 14 million people that died under capitalist organization economy, died because of their own individual failures. Everyone that dies under communism, okay, or a socialist transitional state, okay, they all die because socialism. They all died of famine because socialism bad. So it's the very same problems that are persistent in every organization of the economy that capitalists will turn into agitprop against socialism. It will use against socialism as a talking point. To be like, yeah, no, it's actually fucking socialism that's like killing. You know.
Endlessly co-opted movements for liberation become watered down until they're just prefixes or qualifiers for various parts of the capitalist economy. The way you'll often hear about green capitalism, rainbow capitalism, or black capitalism. Media like Squid Game, or Parasite, or Don't Look Up become that week's water cooler talk. Movements and phrases like Black Lives Matter.
Wait, so what do you say to someone who tells you we can't use socialism because it never works? Do you just tell them that the outcomes of capitalism, climate change, war, destruction of third world countries are way worse than socialism, no consumerism, shitty Minecraft blockhouses? First of all, why the fuck does socialism mean brutalist architecture? Like, is not real. It's not a real thing. Okay? And no consumerism? What the fuck are you talking about? There's like many different ways of giving workers the means of production while simultaneously fucking allowing people to consume whatever the fuck they want to consume. You're not going to get a fucking brutalist Minecraft house, okay? I don't like brutalism either. Yeah, people saying brutalism is sick as fuck, watch your mouth. I don't like brutalism either. I'm not a fan. I don't like brutalist architecture, even though I almost lived in one of those box fucking houses in West Hollywood.
Pogo Italian hands, pogo Italian hands, pogo Italian hands.
I personally believe that the neoliberal method of control, which is a necessity, like a level of control is a necessity, that's what governments do. And I think the neoliberal method of control is good. It is. Even if like all product is like centralized, all product is being controlled in a centralized manner. And like it goes far beyond agricultural subsidies and actually just straight up is like, this is how much fucking grain we have. This is what we're going to continue to do, which we have the mathematical capabilities of predicting, by the way, for the record, for those of you who don't know, for those of you who claim that like we do not have the computational power to figure out like exactly how much product is necessary, you're wrong. Amazon does it every day. And you know, the entire infrastructure, the logistical part of Amazon resembles an entire country, a nation state. So does Walmart. Okay. So, you know, chill the fuck out. We do that. We could do that in the past too. Unless you get some like fucking weirdo grain scientist like Stalin did. Okay. And a whole bunch of other issues there, which I'm not going to get into. But anyway, we do this already. We do this centralized control already. But what I'm trying to simply state is that like we can have that. We can have all of that. Or we can experiment with market-based economies that have full-blown control. Again, centralized control still. But the main purpose is offering people a base level of material equality so they can thrive, okay? Hating brutalist architecture means you love homeless people leaving poop towels outside your house. Yeah, I'm a big fan of that. That's true.
May have become a fixture of our modern society, but in many ways it's because they've lost a lot of their radicality. Not because they've been truly accepted or achieved any of their goals, but because they've successfully been defanged by an advanced system of recuperation to not really matter or be perceived as an actual threat to the social order they challenged. I recognize that this video, like most of the videos on this channel,
will not be monetized.
Doing the same thing. My job is taking some pretty radical ideas.
He always fucking says, will not be monetized. That's why I... Normally he goes, that's why my video is sponsored by whatever the fuck his sponsor is. Dude, I love Second Thought. He's really good. And only getting better, honestly. His channel is great. Been a big fan.
And turning them into entertainment for you. Turning them into something that you can pretty passively consume. Sadly, these videos, just like most everything else, are part of the spectacle too. We've never met, we're not actually communicating, and even if I think I'm doing a pretty good job, which I do of course, I'm very full of myself, trust me, even if I think I'm doing a good job, I am still mostly talking ideas at you, not with you, and without an immediate or concrete plan in mind. As essential as I think what I'm doing is, I'm just one guy on the internet, and I hope that you will fill in the gaps and carry what you learn in these videos into the real world to actually improve things. Fight for change and make it reality. Otherwise,
Do you agree with him that leftist media can only neutralize radicalism? I don't know what he means by leftist media. I think the most we can do is agitprop. That's it. There's nothing else that we can do. That's what I always say. I always say I'm a fucking Twitch streamer. Like I'm not your savior, okay? Only you can save yourself. Only collective action can save you, okay? And the best I can do, the most important thing I can do, I'm not like some fucking dumb lib, okay, who runs around and says things like, oh, I don't know why you don't just like fucking use your wealth to go and, you know, fund a project or a super PAC. Like, what the fuck? Like that stuff that's shit's for the birds, okay? The only thing I can do for you is one, help you better communicate why you are angry and the way you feel the way you do. Okay?
13 months.
That's the only thing I can do is like help you communicate your desires better and help you fucking recognize why you have a shitty hand dealt to you. But you have to then turn around and tell that to others. You have to turn around and organize on your own. That's just how it happens. There's no other way to do that.
Hasan, when are you going to acknowledge my degeneration?
Don't use your wealth, use your platform. No, like my wealth is nothing in the grand scheme of things, especially when the entire system is completely fucking built up against it. Like it's so stupid. It is quite literally, okay? It is quite literally the exact same energy as Republicans whenever people do this. And I do this. I do help where I can. So it's really stupid, okay? But not only that, but holy shit, Scum of the Swamp, thank you for the 50 gifted subs. But I do help where I can, okay? Mutual aid is great. It's unfortunately a Band-Aid, but it's a necessary one, unfortunately, okay? But what I'm trying to state is that I got nothing, you know? Like there is no, even one billionaire doesn't have enough power and influence to magically turn this into a socialist utopia. They don't, because the entire system that is designed to create billionaires is designed against that mentality. We are living in a capitalist organization of the economy. So that's the reason why I can be this major hypocrite that lives in a fucking, $7 billion mansion and still have more Marxist-Leninists in here watching me than any other fucking leftist streamer. Unless they're, quite literally Marxist-Leninists with their own version of a podcast that want to claim that they're Marxist-Leninists, but actually, never mind, they're just patriotic Americans now. Never mind, they're no longer communists, actually. They're just straight up, reactionary Republicans that say that they're leftists, the real leftists. Everyone's done that already. The point is like, dude, I don't understand how you're not like literally fucking changing. You're not changing and turning this into a socialist version of the economy. What the fuck is wrong with you? The reason why I immediately like laugh against that, even though it's fucking bad marketing on my end, it's bad PR for me to laugh against that and not take it seriously, is because it has the exact same energy. Literally everyone in every leftist circle hates that guy. The reason why I laugh at that is because it has the exact same energy as like, hey, oh, you want to fucking solve immigration, dude? Oh, why don't you fucking house an undocumented immigrant? Vuvuzela. Like, leftists love doing that from the left. Like, there's a lot of people who claim that they're leftists with no theory-ass motherfuckers, with no theory-ass brains that just say, like, oh, you want to fucking solve, you want more immigrants here? Why don't you house them?
Disgusting ad stands game.
So stupid.
what's the point? Let's give it a shot. I mentioned at the beginning of this video that this kind of content is made possible by my patrons on Patreon. As you can probably imagine, when I made the switch to producing political content, I started getting demonetized way more often, and most of my sponsors bailed. It's understandable, but because of this, I'm having to rely more heavily on viewers like you. If you like the kind of videos I'm producing, and you're able to chip in even $1 a month, I would greatly appreciate the support. As a little
I think there are people who want to see you doing something important with your wealth, something meaningful that can push Marx Lenin's into the mainstream, but I don't know what that is. Dude, what the fuck do you mean? Like, then, okay, how about this? Oh, you want more leftist ideas to be pushed into the mainstream? Okay, you're right. I think one of the things I could potentially do is, I don't know, maybe fund like a media effort that could present a variety of different ideas and not immediately show itself as like political agitative propaganda from a leftist point of view. And then, you know, maybe that media outlet could like potentially regularly feed a healthy diet of leftist perspective based news commentary. And then on top of that, like maybe that media outlet could have like more of an entertainment focus too on top of that, you know, like a broader entertainment focus on top of that, like because not everything has to be super serious and news all the time and analysis all the time. And then like maybe that way you could bring in an even larger audience of people and then have like in that media outlet you could just like have some kinds of pushback, make sure that it's not like just people that are like-minded, but like constantly and consistently growing, targeting different avenues. You know, I just can't imagine like how I could do that. That would require a fuckload of you know, capital and a fuckload of manpower. I mean, how could we do that? How could we ever do something like that? Yeah, that could be an interesting way, I think, to, I don't know, popularize leftist perspectives and show a different version than what people are used to, which is, oh, blue-haired SJW, you're a communist. I don't know, maybe I could like start it off by going on a platform, like a live streaming platform, because I think live streaming would be a good way to do that. And then, you know, Scum of the Swamp, thank you for the 50 gifted subs. And then maybe I could do that on like Twitch, maybe? Oh, wait, that's exactly what I do every day, and you still complain about it, so shut the fuck up. Like, that's literally what I do. That's what I live for. That's my existence, is that. Okay? Every part of my existence is that. Every fucking, you know, ounce of my being does that. Bro, you don't have to be a dick about, he asked in a nice way. But I know, but it's very frustrating when you can't arrive at that conclusion, because the ultimate conclusion literally is like, hey man, you described something sort of similar. They're here on this site, twitch.tv/Hasanabi. Thank you. It's just so fucking silly. Same energy as aggro sports fans yelling at commentators to play the game themselves, saying commentators must be so knowledgeable. You really SNL'd that joke? I'm just saying, like, and even then, I don't think it's enough, but like, it's what I'm doing, you know? This is my part. And also, I hear it all the time, so I don't know what else to tell you. One for the gays, blind dating 6 guys.